Hello English learners, this is Learn English with Brandon. In this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about American culture, but specifically on why Americans don't travel. Okay? Now, you might be thinking, but you're American, you travel. And I do travel, but in my country we have 322 million people, roughly, okay? Let's take a country like Canada. What is it? Maybe 40 million people? When I've traveled to various parts of the world, whether it's Morocco or Serbia or Ecuador, I really feel like I'm just as likely to run into a Canadian as I am for somebody from the United States. And this kind of, it raises questions in my mind. I'm the only person in my immediate family to have ever left the country, maybe except for crossing the border into Canada. Maybe somebody's done that. But to really actually travel, I'm the only person in my immediate family. And having lived in places that are really close to the Canadian border, I find that it's very common for people to live right next to the border and to never cross the border. And I think that that's really unusual because you live next to a place where there's an imaginary line that you have to go through a certain process to cross, and you just never say, hey, like, what's over there? I want to go over there. You'd think that would be a part of the American spirit to just say, hey, what's over there? So, some certain issues come to mind, maybe some certain examples, and I think that these, when I shed some light on these topics, that it will help you understand a little bit. First of all, we work a lot in the United States. We work a lot, and we're not really given much vacation time. The idea is that we work really, really, really hard for most of our life, and then we get to enjoy the last 20 years of our life if we don't die from congenital heart failure or cancer or something like that. And this is kind of a neat idea, but at the same time, it's like you're using all of your time now so that you can hopefully have a little bit of time at the end of your life. And I kind of get that, but it's not the same mentality that people have in other developed countries. So first of all, we don't really have a month of vacation time like they do in other countries. We don't have paid paternity leave. We also don't have health care that's included in our government system. We have to pay for that, and it's very expensive. I often make the point to people in Europe that to get the health care that they get, we would have to pay $2,000 or $3,000 a month to have that quality of health care. I mean, I had really good insurance at New York State, through New York State, and when I needed an MRI for my back, the doc said, no, you need to pay for 6 weeks of physical therapy before we give you an MRI. Would you like some drugs? And I said, no, I don't want drugs. I just want an MRI. Let's get back to traveling. So, we work a lot, and then there's this fear that we have of leaving our country to go to some other country. And I get a giggle out of this. Yes, that's me laughing. I get a giggle because we think to ourselves, geez, if we have all this gun violence and mass shooting in our country, then the whole world must be so much more dangerous. I was in Ecuador and people said, is it safe? I was in Sweden and people were asking me, hey, do Americans ask you if it's dangerous in Sweden? Because this other guy asked me if it was dangerous. I'm like, Sweden? Are you kidding? People asked me if it was dangerous in Canada. And then people asked me if it was dangerous in Spain. And I really have to be honest with you that there are a few places that I lived in the United States that are more dangerous than anywhere else that I have lived in or been in anywhere else in the world. Ugh. Right? So, we have this fear in our country, and there's probably that's a whole nother discussion on why we have this fear, but this is one of the main things that drives us to stay in our country. So, we work a lot. We're not given vacation time. We have a fear. But you might think, what if we just get up and leave our jobs? Or what if we just ask for a break? Well, the thing is we can't. If we tell our boss, hey, I'm going to go on vacation for a month, they'll just say, well, don't bother coming back here. Don't bother coming back here. Because they're not going to give you the break. You will get fired. So there's not only the fear of danger outside, there's the fear of losing our job, there's the fear of, not being able to pay for our apartment, not being able to pay for our things. And now we get to the final point. So perhaps this has something more to do with values. What do we value in the United States? We have the biggest consumer culture. You could say vacations are a form of consumption. However, with our consumption in the United States, we buy material things. We might buy intellectual property such as movies and DVDs, these types of things. But but really, I think in this case, in terms of our values, we value owning stuff. We value owning stuff. And I think that this really got fueled in the 70s, and I think it's been one of the biggest downfalls of American culture is this notion of consumption and owning stuff. Okay? In Europe, most people live in smaller dwelling spaces, smaller apartments, smaller homes. In the United States, we have more space. Our gasoline is much less expensive, so we can live outside of the city and have a big house, and we can drive into the city, and we don't have to pay too much to do that. But when we have a bigger house, when we have a lot of stuff that is inexpensive and unusable after a short period of time, we can buy it and just put it in the house, and when it doesn't work, we can buy it again and put it in the house. Um, and And if I go on vacation, who's going to watch my stuff? Right? My stuff. So that's like another thing. Like, what if I go on vacation and my stuff is gone? I come back and my stuff isn't there. I hope you're finding this a little funny. Um, but it is a little funny in a certain light, but it's also a little sad in another light because it seems like we do value consumption a little bit too much, and it's very complicated. I'm not saying that Americans are just these like consuming creatures who just want to just buy and buy and eat and eat. It's not just that. Um, Americans are good people. They're good people, but we are all products of the environment that we were created in, that we were raised in, and it takes a tremendous amount of effort and perhaps unusual circumstances to actually see outside of this environment that we were raised in, or to try to become a different product of our environment. So I don't think that we can blame Americans. I don't think that it's right to point the finger, but I think it's very important that we just increase awareness of this subject, and that we talk about our values. What are the things that we do value? For instance, if we don't value traveling, if we don't value learning about other cultures, maybe we can just simply ask ourselves, why? Why don't we value that? And then perhaps the individual can engage in an internal dialogue to expand on these thoughts and to understand themselves better. I think that's the important thing to do. So I think that you're more likely to run into people from the United States, obviously when you're in my country, um, but when you do run into other people from the United States in other countries, in your country, I think it might be a good way to practice your English, to ask them about these types of things, to think about these concepts, and then to ask them. The United States is perceived as this very wealthy country where everybody drives around in big, nice cars and lives in big, nice houses. And to be honest, what you see on television, that's only the top 4% of people, only the top 4% of the United States, okay? To be in the top 10%, you have to make $117,000 a year. This was from a few years ago. It's probably changed a little bit now. And you might think, well, that's a ton of money, and it is a lot of money. But after you figure in the actual taxes that we pay on property and healthcare, I mean, you're only getting like $20,000 of that after everything is all said and done. So it's not as wonderful as Hollywood likes to make it seem. So I want everybody in the world to really question all the information that people give them. You can question the information that I'm giving you right now, and challenge me on it if you want. Please challenge me on it. It's a great way to practice your English, and I can help you correct your English on that note. So I want us Americans to really question all the information that we're given. If it's on a screen, we should be questioning it. I think everybody in the world should question everything that they are told. And I've said this before, and I've said this quote before. It's not my saying, but the sign of an intelligent person is the ability to hold two opposing thoughts in their brain at once, so that we can always see both sides of the coin when we are thinking about everything. And that will help us remember when a new subject comes along, when a new notion, a new concept, or a new construct that comes along, we will be able to hold that in our minds and then just turn it so that we can see all the facets that it might have to offer. So yes, so tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you think Americans travel a lot? Why? Why not? Do you think Americans should travel a lot? Do you think it would help Americans? Do you think it would change American culture if Americans traveled a lot? I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.